If I had to choose between facing my worst fears on the ground or confronting the unexpected in the sky, the choice would be tough. But imagine being tens of thousands of feet in the air when the unimaginable happens. Every day, roughly 100,000 flights take off and land globally, ferrying around 6 million people to their destinations. While air travel is remarkably safe and the skies seem endlessly crowded if you look at a global air traffic map, the odds are still there. Somewhere among these flights, there are moments of sheer terror and disbelief. If you've never been on a flight that tested the limits of your fears, you're about to witness what some have endured. From heart-stopping turbulence to encounters with nightmare passengers, here are 15 scary videos caught on airplanes that will make you rethink your next flight. Number 15. Flying UFO. While flying at an altitude of over 20,000 feet, a passenger on a flight from Los Angeles captured what looked like a UFO flying near the plane. Now, when we hear about UFO sightings, it's easy to let our imaginations run wild with images of alien spacecraft and extraterrestrial visitors. However, in reality, UFO stands for Unidentified Flying Object. This term encompasses anything in the sky that cannot be immediately identified. More often than not, these objects have earthly explanations. They could be drones, weather balloons, unusual cloud formations, or even optical illusions caused by light and atmospheric conditions. The vast majority of UFO sightings are eventually explained through more mundane phenomena. However, the person who captured this clip firmly believes that what he saw was extraterrestrial. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Number 14. Near the entrance. Here's a bizarre incident that occurred just last year on Asiana Airlines' Airbus A321 in a South Korean flight. As you can see, two men were stuck near an open emergency exit door after a man forced it open. This unusual occurrence took place on an A321-200 aircraft carrying nearly 200 passengers, and it happened just as the plane was approaching Incheon International Airport. Imagine you're comfortably seated, perhaps contemplating your arrival, and suddenly an emergency door flings open. The cabin is thrown into chaos, with passengers' hair whipping about as air rushes in. Now, you're probably wondering what reason could someone possibly have for them to open the emergency exit. Luckily, the man who pulled off the stunt was interviewed, so you don't need to speculate about the reason. The man claimed that he was reportedly stressed due to job loss and opened the door because he felt suffocated and thought the flight was taking too long. The unexpected and drastic action led to several passengers being hospitalized, though thankfully, there were no serious injuries. Following this incident, Asiana Airlines took the precaution of stopping the sale of some emergency exit row seats on their A321-200 jets. Meanwhile, the passenger faced legal consequences for breaking aviation security laws. He was stressed at work, and now he'll be more stressed because of legal matters. Well, that's quite unfortunate. Number 13. Inside the clouds. As a kid, I always thought that clouds were like cotton candy, or at least something similar, but on my first plane ride, that assumption was quickly shattered as I saw the airplane wing slash through a cloud. But apparently, there are instances when clouds have a different texture. Just look at this cool clip showing a plane flying through a cloud in cold temperatures or icing conditions. Pretty awesome, huh? This involves something called supercooled large droplets, or SLD. These droplets are much larger than the typical icing particles and can pose significant hazards to aircraft. When a plane flies through a cloud containing these large droplets, the ice can form not just on the leading edges, where de-icing equipment is typically located, but also further back on the wings and other surfaces. This can disrupt airflow and affect the plane's performance. SLDs often form in specific atmospheric conditions, like temperature inversions, or through a process called collision coalescence, where droplets within a cloud collide and combine. It might be pretty perplexing to look at them, but pilots know better than to get distracted by these crystals. Exiting such conditions as soon as they're encountered is often the best course of action for aviators. Number 12. Grip the door closed. This student pilot had the lesson of a lifetime when the door suddenly opened while he was trying to fix a sensor. He was quick on his feet though, as he immediately gripped the door handle and forced it shut. Situation avoided narrowly. Usually, the chances of this happening on a commercial flight are incredibly slim. After all, airplane doors are designed to be incredibly secure and are essentially locked by the pressure inside the cabin when cruising at altitude. The pressure inside the cabin is much higher than the pressure outside. This difference in air pressure makes it physically impossible for a human to open the door. How did the man in the first clip manage to open the door? Well, I guess the stress gave him enough strength to open the door. This one, however, was more of a human error. The plane's control triggered the door's opening, but what would happen if an airplane door opened mid-flight? Well, it would lead to rapid decompression. This would be a serious emergency requiring pilots to swiftly descend to a lower, safer altitude and potentially perform an emergency landing. So, next time you're on a flight and someone jokes about opening the door, you can rest assured knowing that it's virtually impossible unless you're seated next to a stressed businessman. Then maybe get the attention of the cabin crew immediately. Number 11. In the open air. Open doors, terrifying. Plane panels blowing away? Well, that's another level of horror. You see, plane doors are supposed to open in some circumstances, but the plane panels, they're not supposed to go anywhere. And so, imagine the horror of passengers of this Alaska Airlines Boeing 737 MAX 9 mid-flight at a cruising altitude of 16,000 feet. A panel decided it had enough of flying and blew off the aircraft, prompting an emergency landing. This incident has understandably ruffled some feathers, leading to the grounding of 171 Boeing MAX jets for safety inspections, primarily affecting Alaska Airlines and United Airlines. Thankfully, our pilots are trained to keep a cool head, even when the wind has blown away parts of their aircraft. This little escapade by the panel has not only caused horror to the passengers, who left the flight with a pretty unforgettable experience, but also led to a class action lawsuit against Boeing, with passengers of the flight voicing their concerns over the physical and emotional impact of the incident. Number 10. Flight scare. Experiencing turbulence on a plane can be quite a hair-raising experience, especially when you're soaring thousands of feet above the ground in a metal tube. That's precisely what these people experienced. Now, this is quite horrifying to watch, especially if you fly frequently. Well, first of all, rest assured that these people are safe. This clip was captured on a Frontier flight in 2019, on a plane from Denver bound for Baltimore. You can see just how panicked people were as the turbulence became stronger. The lights were also dim, and it seemed like there was no crew directing or providing updates about what was happening. Usually, pilots would inform their passengers if they should brace or prepare for stronger turbulence, but that didn't happen in this case. Turbulence is something that comes along with a flight, and for the most part, it's really nothing for you to worry about. Turbulence is caused by sudden changes in airflow, similar to eddies and currents in water. There are several reasons why this might happen, like air moving over mountains, shifts in weather, or colliding air masses of different temperatures. Turbulence happens over something as simple as cool air colliding with warm air. It's rated as light, moderate, severe, or extreme. Thankfully, the majority of turbulence encountered on commercial aircraft is light, and severe or extreme turbulence is rare. But when it happens, it can be quite alarming. Number 9. Engine on fire. Any aviators out there, any pilots, what are your thoughts about the huge onslaught of Boeing-related accidents in the past years? Now, this is just one of the incidents related to it. On February 20, 2021, United Airlines Flight 328, a Boeing 777-222, experienced a dramatic incident shortly after takeoff from Denver International Airport. Not just any failure, but a rather flashy one. The aircraft's right engine failed, leading to parts of the engine cowling disintegrating and falling over Broomfield, Colorado. This created a debris field and led to an in-flight engine fire. Remarkably, the pilots managed to secure the failed engine and safely return the plane to Denver, landing without further issues just 24 minutes after takeoff. No injuries were reported on the plane, which carried 231 passengers and 10 crew members, or on the ground. However, the Boeing 777 was actually pretty well known for its long-range capabilities and twin-engine design and had a relatively low accident fatality rate. This specific incident led to increased scrutiny and inspections of aircraft with similar engine types to prevent future occurrences. It was well known for its long-range capabilities, but after several incidents, impressions about these planes have changed. Number 8. A gap in the door. Remember what I told you about open doors in a flying plane? Well, this guy probably knows what would happen should the door really burst open. A gap in the door is still something that's pretty alarming. I would probably immediately get the attention of a flight attendant if I noticed something like this. I'd rather falsely report something suspicious than risk a technical issue while flying over 10,000 feet in the air. But if this ever happens to you, what are the chances that a simple gap in the airplane door would lead to something more serious? Well, you've seen a pilot land a plane with the emergency exit wide open, so a simple gap shouldn't be a problem. Besides, modern aircraft are engineered with multiple safeguards against such incidents. The doors are designed to open inward first, making it nearly impossible to open them against the force of cabin pressure. Plus, they're secured with robust electrical and mechanical latches. But just in case it does open, your best bet is to stay calm, fasten your seatbelt, and trust in the skilled hands of the flight crew. If this happened to me, I'd probably avoid planes for a good decade. Number 7. Police on board. If a plane is diverted, you know that something's amiss. If a plane is diverted and police board the plane minutes after touchdown, you know something serious happened. That's the horrific scenario some passengers endured in 2021 on a Hawaiian Airlines flight. The flight bound for Hilo from Honolulu had to make an unplanned return to Honolulu after a passenger reportedly harmed a flight attendant. Naturally, the plane crew had to take serious action against the unruly passenger. The passenger, a 32-year-old man, was arrested and faced serious charges for his actions. Such incidents are rare, but when they happen, it can be incredibly inconvenient. Reports claimed that the incident was most likely caused by a misunderstanding. It was a simple argument that brought upon a big ordeal that everyone on board had to endure. That's several hours of their day gone to waste, and for some, time is money. So, I guess we should all remember that flight attendants are trained to handle a variety of emergency situations, but dealing with unruly passengers who harm them isn't within their job description. If this happens, police are bound to step in. Number 6. Inside the cockpit. There's a reason why it became a tradition for some people to clap after a plane lands. Sure, planes, as I've said earlier, are now far safer than many years ago, but it's still a huge relief to get off your flight safely, no matter how uneventful and smooth it is. The plane is given credit, of course, but the pilot is also given credit. Pilots are trained to handle all kinds of situations, including the unnerving experience of flying through turbulence. Just look at how this pilot managed to breeze through turbulence, keeping calm and not showing any signs of worry. Pilots undergo extensive training to handle turbulence, the common phenomena in aviation caused by various atmospheric conditions such as jet streams, mountain waves, or storms. This training includes understanding weather patterns, recognizing turbulent conditions before encountering them, and knowing the aircraft's limitations. While turbulence is typically more of a discomfort than a danger, pilots are trained to prioritize passenger comfort and safety. To navigate through turbulence, pilots rely on a combination of skills and technology in the cockpit. They have access to instruments and systems that help them navigate through rough air. They may adjust the altitude to find smoother conditions, manage the speed to ensure the aircraft's stability, and communicate with air traffic control for information and assistance. Pilots also continuously monitor weather reports and forecasts to avoid areas of potential turbulence when possible. Despite the challenges turbulence presents, pilots are well equipped to handle it safely. Their training, experience, and access to advanced technology allow them to navigate through turbulent conditions while maintaining the safety and comfort of passengers. Once you see a pilot controlling a plane with turbulence shaking the entire aircraft while looking like it's just another Monday, that's the time you'll see true calmness and professionalism. Now it's time for today's subscriber pick. This intriguing tale captures a moment that seems to defy both logic and safety. The narrative revolves around a photograph taken by flight passengers, revealing an individual in a situation that screams danger and recklessness. The person in question appears to be attempting something unimaginable, camping on the wing of an airplane mid-flight. Given the advancements in aviation safety over the years, the idea of someone deliberately placing themselves in such peril is baffling. The inherent risks of being swept away by the wind or the legality of boarding a plane in such an unconventional manner are immediate red flags. The photo has sparked a debate, with some dismissing it as a hoax, arguing that no one would be reckless enough to attempt such a feat, suggesting the image might have been digitally altered to create a sensational story. On the other hand, there are voices within the online community who believe that the stunt was genuine. They speculate that the individual might have gone to great lengths, possibly even compensating the crew, to achieve this daring act, all in the pursuit of internet fame and social media clout. Among the theories circulating, some suggest that the person could be one of the many internet vloggers who strive to capture and share extreme stunts, pushing the boundaries of what's considered possible or sensible, all for the sake of gaining followers and likes on platforms like Instagram. While the truth behind the photo remains a topic of speculation, one thing everyone hopes for is the safety of the individual involved. If the stunt was indeed real, the paramount concern is that the person managed to return to the ground without harm. This story serves as a reminder of the lengths to which some will go for recognition in the digital age, where the line between bravery and folly often blurs. Number 5. 20,000 feet in the air. Now, here's another nightmarish clip captured inside a plane. If you have yet to experience heavy turbulence on a flight, this might discourage you from flying, especially when there's a forecast for challenging weather. I already told you about the science behind turbulence, but I'll tell you more about it. When it comes to turbulence, there's an interesting mix of facts and myth that often surround these bumpy episodes experienced during flights. First off, turbulence is more common than you might think. The National Center for Atmospheric Research reports around 65,000 pilot-reported encounters with moderate or more significant turbulence annually in the United States alone. But don't let this number alarm you. Now, diving into the specifics, Turbulence is caused by various factors like atmospheric pressure changes, jet streams, air around mountains, weather fronts, or thunderstorms. But here's where it gets interesting. Turbulence isn't as scary as it feels. Yes, it can give an airplane a sudden jolt, but commercial airplanes are built to withstand much more than these jolts. So, while your next flight might not be entirely bump-free, rest assured that it's still a safe way to travel. The aviation industry continuously works on improving turbulence detection and mitigation, making your journey as smooth as possible. However, if you scream when experiencing something like this clip, I really won't blame you. Number 4. Derbyshire Ghost Plane. Now, this isn't really a clip, but rather a horrifying ghost incident. Perhaps some of you guys might have even heard about it already, the Derbyshire Ghost Plane. Is there anyone from Derbyshire watching? Perhaps you're already familiar with this anomaly. But for those who don't know, let me tell you about it. Now, I want you to picture yourself in Derbyshire. You're walking around, and suddenly a shadow looms upon you. You look up, thinking it's just gray clouds covering the sun, and then you see a dark, silent aircraft in the sky. This isn't any plane but a World War II-era Douglas Dakota type of aircraft. So, of course, there are a lot of stories about this alleged ghost plane. There's the story of a massive old airplane that flew straight over a witness's head, completely silent and seemingly heading for a crash, only to disappear without a sound. Others have described seeing aircraft that looked like they belonged in the 1940s, with propellers and green paint. So, I guess even machines and planes can also manifest into apparitions. One theory even suggests that these apparitions could be connected to the crash of a Vickers Wellington bomber during World War II, stirring thoughts of a haunted sky where the spirits of the past are doomed to repeat their final fateful moments. However, as with many ghost stories, there's a rational explanation lurking beneath the supernatural surface. The RAF has clarified that what people were likely seeing were Hercules Lockheed C-130 aircraft involved in routine training missions across the UK. These planes, with their impressive presence and capability to fly at low altitudes, could easily be mistaken for ghostly apparitions, especially by those not expecting to see such a sight. So, whether these sightings in Derbyshire are glimpses into a paranormal realm or just a case of mistaken identity, well, I'll leave it up to you guys to decide. Number 3. Anyone lose their cat? As a pet owner, the scariest thing that can happen on a flight is to lose your pet. That's why these circumstances are likely among the most horrific things that have happened to these pet owners. In this first incident, a feline suddenly showed itself and climbed on top of the seat, searching for something. Now, we all know that this little fella is most likely searching for its owner, or at least somewhere safe that it could go to. Seeing the cat, many of the passengers immediately began filming. This tabby cat's great escape turned out to be in-flight entertainment for the passengers. Luckily, the tabby was reunited with its owner. But this isn't the only incident of a cat being on the loose. On a United Airlines flight from Dallas to San Francisco, a cat escaped its carrier and decided to explore the cabin. This feline's adventure created quite a stir among the passengers and the flight cabin as well, as they were 37,000 feet in the air. The cat entered the first-class cabin, stirring up more commotion. Luckily, its owner finally revealed themselves and walked up the aisle to finally retrieve his poor pet. In this final incident, a gray and white cat got out of its carrier as well. This happened on a JetBlue flight from Ontario to New York in 2023. A 15-year-old domestic shorthair named Brian escaped from its carrier while traveling with his owners, software engineer Alexis Woodbury and her fiancé, Chris Forney. Brian's impromptu adventure began when he escaped from his cat backpack while his owners were asleep. The flight attendant's announcement of, "Is anyone missing a cat? We have a large gray and white cat here," woke them up, leading to a humorous yet heartwarming scene of passengers chuckling and clapping as Brian was safely reunited with his owners, while being carried by one of the flight crew as if he's in a walk of shame. Number 2. Oxygen masks dropping. Imagine you're napping peacefully during a 6-hour direct flight. You just had your meal, your favorite playlist is playing in the background, your neck pillow keeps you comfortable, you're on the window seat with no one sitting beside you, and everything is surprisingly comfortable. You're on your way to a deeper slumber when suddenly turbulence rocks the plane. The pilot gives a warning, you're all instructed to strap on your seatbelts, and oxygen masks deploy. This all happens in a span of 30 seconds. Sounds horrifying, right? Again, planes today are built for a lot of things, so for the most part, you have nothing to worry about. However, seeing oxygen masks deployed can mean that the situation is getting quite serious. You see, the deployment of oxygen masks in airplanes is an exceedingly rare event. In 2014, for example, oxygen masks were deployed just over 60 times on commercial flights, and many of these instances were actually accidental. This infrequency makes it extremely unlikely for a passenger to experience this during their flights. And when you do experience it, it's definitely something. The confusion and rush to remember the safety briefing, which you've likely ignored numerous times, can be quite a scene. Why the masks, though? Simply put, if there's a sudden loss in cabin pressure, which could be due to various reasons, the oxygen level at high altitudes isn't sufficient for normal breathing. The masks provide crucial supplemental oxygen to prevent hypoxia, a condition where the brain and other body tissues don't receive enough oxygen. Hypoxia can cause symptoms like nausea and headaches, and eventually lead to unconsciousness or worse. In such a situation, pilots would typically initiate a rapid descent to a lower altitude, around 10,000 feet, where breathing normal air is safe. The oxygen masks in the cabin supply between 15 to 20 minutes of oxygen, ample time for the aircraft to reach a safer, breathable altitude. It's important to remember that these masks are literal lifesavers. In the event they drop down, you should first secure your own mask before helping others. The reason? You've got about 18 seconds of usable consciousness to get that mask on before hypoxia might set in. Well, hopefully you'll never have to use this information in your life, but it can't hurt to remember it, right? So, which of these videos did you find the most unsettling? Well, I definitely wouldn't want to be on a flight where a kid is repeatedly kicking my seat. I'm young but not young enough to be immune to motion sickness, unfortunately. But what about you? Any nightmarish flights? Number 1. Chewing gum. I'll admit I can really be petty at times, but I'm not this level of petty. Let's face it, a 6 to 8 hour flight can be grueling and ridiculously boring at times for most passengers, even frequent flyers. On-flight screens are essential, but what if the person in front of you is an absolute menace who keeps blocking your screen with her hair? Well, this girl had enough. She kept pushing the girl's hair away, but the woman in question kept putting it back. Now, what would you do in this situation? Well, I'd probably ask her to stop blocking my screen with a pleasant smile, but this girl had other plans. Perhaps she's had enough, or maybe she's already talked to the girl off-screen and was ignored. She took quite a drastic action. She stuck chewing gum into the hair-flipping passenger's locks, not stopping there. She cut parts of the hair with nail clippers, inserted a lollipop, and dunked the ends into her coffee cup. This drastic action, seen as a response to what many considered a major social faux pas, sparked a divided reaction on social media. Some believe the girl's actions were justified, but others think she went too far. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below.